Hey.
Hey, what's up, Wally?
What up, dude? Hey,
I can rocket launch.
Yeah. Hold on one second. There's like, do you see something to the left of your video or to the right of your video as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
I wanted to see your beautiful face. I'll minimize the rocket launch. How's that?
No. It's on my end. I think I have to. Oh, there we go. Okay, now I can see the comments as well. So, hey, Goosebumps. Hey, John. This is the Techromancer, a buddy of mine from the community. And we were talking backstage, and he's like, hey, man, did you know that there's a rocket launch in like 10 minutes? And I'm like, whoa. So
look at that, too. It's off the ground. It hasn't blown up.
Hasn't blown up yet. I mean, that's off to a good start, right? Your channel.
Well, this is a cool setup you got, Wally. So what are you, how many of these have you done so far?
Of my own, I've done, let me see here. Sorry, let me go in here. I got some pre-recorded that I haven't released yet because I was a little worried about, like, even though I think it's unclassified, is it really unclassified type stuff? So I got kind of a bunch of those, but I got. Okay. Oh, here we go. Videos. 37 videos. I got looks a few dozen shorts. My shorts get the most views. Like one with my brother, I ripped his pocket off at my grandpa's 90th birthday
party. Dude, I've seen that one. I've seen that one.
It's got 10,000 views,
Yeah.
So that's pretty wild. And the second highest one is my son driving and people losing their fucking mind. Losing it. Like, who do you think you are? Like
your son. How old is your son?
Oh, he's like 14 or 15 in the video, but we're on the farm,
Yeah.
And my 8-year-old sitting on his lap, and it's like there's nothing to hit. It's a farm. It's gonna be fine, Karen's came out of the woodwork on that shit.
People have already forgotten. They've already forgotten what it's like to be in the country where there's like literally no people and no roads to speak of, and you can just kind of go wherever.
Exactly. Hey, so for this out there, are they catching the booster system, or is it just still?
I don't think so. I don't think anyone's trying to do that yet. I assume they're deploying satellites. I was watching like the lead up to it, and they were showing the montage of like how the rocket was built, and part of it was like some of the satellite imagery where they were basically saying that some of the satellites they're deploying, I think, are basically going to provide types of like internet service to India.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, so you know what this video reminds me of? Like the cheesy one on the operating system on the airplanes where you're looking at where you are in the air.
Yeah.
It's like it's like not super high tech, whereas like SpaceX has cameras on the rocket so you can watch it from the rocket,
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I mean, they probably have like some sensors and stuff, but dude, like you can imagine like how much time did it take you to like fine tune your setup for this?
I'd still not fine tuned. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
and
it's like imagine having to like coordinate that many video streams off of a rocket, and not only like give them all the like to the telemetry people that actually need to see them, but also live stream them to the world at the same time. Like that is such an undertaking. It's a miracle.
Right. It is. Yeah, that's true. So China did launch one. Went and try to catch it, but it blew up. Yeah, it blew up.
Oh man, should we watch that?
Yeah, we should definitely watch that. We should watch this one until we're sure that it doesn't we'll kill everything.
We'll give a little more time.
China's reusable rocket. Oh, they had one that completed a vertical test landing. The other ones have all blown up.
Okay.
It's pretty spectacular.
Yeah, dude, I should start watching those. I feel like the potential for excitement is much higher. Well,
Oh yeah.
At least the explosive kind. It's like have you ever? I mean, you can make lots of jokes about like made in China, blah blah blah. But like, have you seen the videos of like the cities that they built that are like abandoned, that are like slowly falling down? Like sometimes
Oh yeah.
people will just be driving by and you'll just see a skyscraper just like just collapse because it's made out of like sheetrock and like diluted steel alloy that just like doesn't hold up.
Yep.
It's
Yep.
crazy.
It's crazy. Like some of them, when they fall and start a domino effect, those are the real crazy videos.
Oh man, yeah. Yeah.
So here's something from the comments. Today's the 39th anniversary of the Challenger tragedy.
Oh,
so that's interesting.
Man,
I didn't know that.
That's not a good day to pick.
Not for a rocket launch.
Well, but there's no people on this, I assume.
Yeah. It doesn't look like it. It looks like it's a delivery vessel.
Yeah. Dude. Did you see the latest Starship launch?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, that was super cool. It was super cool to see the videos afterwards. Well, because as you know, spoiler alert, they caught the booster, but the upper stage had a rapid unscheduled disassembly. And so people were taking videos afterwards of the debris coming back.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, it looked like a rainbow, like meteor storm. It's just like the most like it was beautiful. Like lots of people didn't know what it was, and all of a sudden the sky was filled with these streaks of like red and blue fire, and they're just like, what is this?
Well, I was watching live and I noticed, I was like, they're not really saying much, but that one feed went away. And then they're like, well, we lost communication with blah, 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 but we're going to try to get that back. And I'm like, spaghetti-o. Like it's, doesn't seem like a thing,
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because like, I did not expect that to happen. And I don't think they did either. I mean, they always say, there's always a chance of it happening. Like, they've made lots of changes and, it's all for data and so on. But like, just like the fact that the last one before that, they intentionally took off heat shielding to see how far they could push the rocket to see if it could withstand the reentry. And it made it. It made it all the way to the ocean. Like some parts fell off, but like it made it more or less in one piece. But it's scary, that humans in the future, like looking back on this, that are on the rocket will be like, well, that piece that blew up is the piece that I'm on right now. So,
right. I don't think I'll go to space in my lifetime. I don't know. It's, Elon used the same terminology he did for the car. Like, when is it okay to completely drive unassisted in a car? It's like when the amount of time is basically 2 lifetimes that you won't get into a fender bender or any incident. And like, that's kind of like the same way with space flight, right? But it's always going to be super expensive. And it'll probably get a little more expensive. Like he's reduced the cost exponentially, but still going to take fuel.
Rocket thing. Yeah.
But if you could get to the moon and then launch from the moon, that would be cool. That would be, because Elon said it too. There's like no current alternative to fuel. You just need that thrust to torque to pounds per square inch. There's a big, what do you call it? Matrix, or the statistics behind it it's like undeniable. Like you need that propellant,
It's absolutely like, it's mind boggling the amount of like, I guess like, calories isn't the right word, but you know what I'm talking, like the amount of power that it takes to put a rocket into orbit and actually give it escape velocity is like, it's like a million like cars. It's like drive a million cars for a year, and that's like one like Starship launch or something. It's something insane like that, And I remember hearing Elon say something like, it's lucky for us that we're on a planet that is as small as it is, because if the Earth were even a little bit bigger, the gravity would actually be too much, like for us with fossil fuels to escape its gravity. We're only like just small enough for us to actually, for it to be even be possible with our combustion technology to get into orbit.
I saw somebody considering. Have you seen the nanotubes? The nanotubing.
Mm-mm.
It would be quicker to have a space station and suspend a line, right? But the problem with that being if you use steel, the size of the steel at the base of the rope has to be so incredibly huge. It's like a third of the circumference of the moon, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's not going to happen, right? But this nanotechnology can do it. For some, it supports itself,
Space elevator is such a fascinating concept because, dude, once they figure out how to do it, then we can start having well, there's a word for it. It starts with the C. It's like the Kashmir belt or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's the word for it is it essentially means a belt of orbiting matter around the geosynchronous orbit. So basically, geosynchronous orbit being the place where they put satellites where they're always looking down at the exact same place, which is the place that you'd want to put a space elevator, because it's in orbit, but it's also attached to something that is never going to move.
Right.
Right. And like there are people like I'm actually super fascinated by the whole idea of a space elevator. Like there are YouTube videos that go super in depth on it and explain how you can take a satellite and you can put it in geosynchronous orbit, and then you can tether it to the Earth. But then what you do is you give it a little bit more length, and you let it slide out a little bit further away from the Earth, so that its centrifugal force pulls the tether, and basically allows it to have this pull from both sides. So you don't have to build the whole thing like the Tower of Babel, right, where you have like the decreasing like size of it as it goes up. But yeah, once they get that technology to the point where they can build a whatever, like 200-mile rope of it, however long they need, that's gonna be wild.
Let me show you the fiery end of China's.
Okay, all right, stop sharing.
Do I need this on the same screen? It's been a while. Share screen, window. We'll do this one. Okay. I wonder if I get volume. Hold on 1 second. Oh, that's probably why. I don't know if you can hear this, but.
Oh, dang.
Wait, how do I?
Okay.
Hold on. This StreamYard banner is pissing me off. Hold on 1 second. Nope. How do I get rid of this? What the fuck? Hold on. Sorry. 1 sec.
No worries.
Comments banner, media assets.
Go away, Duck. You're not needed.
Oh, there we go. Okay, I hit something. All right, that's better. Let me stop sharing for a sec. Hey, so the Techromancer and I have known each other for quite some time, and whenever we see each other, we have some of these really kind of cool conversations about like a ton of shit. And like we've talked for like hours, like completely sober at a table, and just like talked about stuff like space or black dark matter. And like, well, I read this, and then it's like, what the fuck are you talking? It's like one of those conversations, which has always been really cool. And so we were in DC, we got lunch. And then right when I was about to drop him and our other buddy off, we were talking about like detainees and stuff, and like detainees and like what happens, especially like stuff collected on the battlefield. And so I was talked about that a little bit. And then I was like, yeah, I got like stuff signed by Saddam. And they're like, what? Like, actually, let me grab that.
You had to explain it all because like you're like, welcome to the bath party, and I'm like, the bath party? What are you talking about?
Oh yeah, that's right. Sorry, thanks for reminding me. Yeah, if you weren't geopolitically, oh shit, Dan Howard's on. Fuck yeah. Hey Dan. If you weren't geopolitically savvy, right? And I said bath party, you'd be like, what, like the Greeks used to have bath parties, or
Yeah,
like whatever,
Yeah.
And like then it hit me, oh, I just said stuff without explaining it all. But yeah, so okay, so here's the folder first off. So it's pretty cool. They come in these folders. It's religious text on the front, basically. There's one God, but God, no God but God, and Muhammad is his messenger. This is one of the signed ones. And so your picture, like any certificate, your picture goes in the little box over here, right? And then signed by Saddam. So wow. I imagine though and I forgot what this means. This is also a signature, but I think that's the date. I can't remember. But yeah, I probably have 15 of these. Only like 3 of them are signed. He probably had an assistant sign it, but that's stuff that's captured on the battlefield, right? And what's cool is Stone Vet's in here. So he's done a lot of detainee stuff too over the years, and we kind of all have. But it's weird that nobody, like, we just take this. It's not the most important part of the thing. So like we've never really talked about how it works. And funny, I was just looking on the internet earlier today for like information on it. It's like, okay, well, in my head, here's how we did it. Like you think about going on an operation, right? So for the Marines, that could be, we call it patrol to contact, which is, it's really crazy, right? You just walk around until somebody shoots at you, and then you go do something about it, right? So patrol to contact. So then you can capture somebody during that.
So you're like looking for side quest type thing, almost.
Side quest, yeah. It's like a Marine Corps side quest, Boogaloo side quest, whatever you want to call it. It's like, Hey, Dan, no problem, dude. We'll talk soon. I'm going to be around this evening if you're free. Just text me. Dan's a good friend of mine. He's a professor at SIUE in Illinois. We've known each other since we were like 5. We were in band together. I was best man in his wedding. He's an awesome musician too. So, but yeah, back on track. So yeah, so basically Marines go on these little side quests, and overall they're called CONEPs. So like if you have a level 1 CONEP, that takes like a bunch of approvals. So a level 4 is going on a walk, basically. So Marines will just get all the boys together and go on a walk, right? Until somebody shoots at them, and then maybe they capture somebody, right? Or most likely not, but sometimes, yeah, it's one of those random things Marines do. But checkpoints. So not at the beginning of the war, recon by fire, absolutely. Not necessarily at the beginning of the war, but towards like the middle and now, we had biometric equipment. There's like 3 main different types called BATs, hides, and seeks. So you'd set up these things called ECPs, emergency checkpoint or something checkpoint, right? There's a lot of different types of checkpoints, but it'd be a planned thing. You'd go into a city or a road, and anybody coming down the street, you stop them, and then you search the vehicles. You get retina scans, fingerprints on everybody, right? Everybody in all the vehicles. Definitely towards, let's say, probably for me, Iraq, 2007, we already had a huge database, because just like you would run a investigation on a bomb in America, like we have a whole section, whole building. It's called SEXC, CEXC. Something combined exploitation, something explosive cell. But I mean, when we would catch a pressure plate, they would literally have it in a booth, one of the smoke chambers, to see fingerprints. They would cut the tape off there. I mean, we're talking thousands of miles of tape. They cut it in foot-long sections and hang it. And then they got the thing that it's a glue that's an aerosol glue that makes fingerprints. Those fingerprints.
What do you mean by what did you call it? A plate?
Pressure plate. So the pressure plate is a vehicle or human initiated trigger system for an IED.
Yeah.
So the pressure plate's just one of those devices. You could have remote, so somebody could have a cell phone. You press go, bomb goes up. Commandet, which is a line where they push a button, or, connect the electrical signal, and everything goes boom. But all of that evidence that's collected, the pressure plate in a lot of instances is actually offset from the bomb. It's not like one's right on top of the other. So any of those offset, that pressure plate is still preserved. So they'll cut off pieces of the tape and they take all of that fingerprint data, and that goes into these digital systems. And it's really grunt proof. Like, they're not small. I mean, they're about the size of a water bottle, right? And you scan because it's got to have enough room for a palm, palm and fingers. So you scan these people you're stopped at the checkpoint, and if it's green, they're not in the system. If it's red, detain them.
Wow, so you're doing like data collection, sounds like.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Everything's data.
I almost don't want to make the comparison, but like, I feel like in some ways, do you feel like in some ways it's similar to what they do with wolves and stuff, like in the Midwest, wolves and mountain lions, where you're sort of just like, is it sort of a catch tag and release type thing, where like they go to a database, and
if it shows up red, no, it's bring them in. You 100%, 100% of the time bring them in. Yeah, it's that there are applications to where you intentionally let people go. Like, maybe that this person is this person, but maybe their part of the hierarchy is pretty low. Like, maybe they're a small time equipment facilitator. Like, maybe they provide copper wire to somebody who then provides it to an IED cell. Maybe they're sympathetic, or maybe they just need money, right? Maybe they're not even a hardliner, but there are situations where people do get let go. It's not as common. Like, if they don't talk in some instances, they just get let go, right? Or they go to Gitmo, or they go to Kuwait, or they go to a bunch of these places.
Oh wow! So you're taking most of them in?
Yeah. So listen. So imagine this. Like, I was a targeter in Afghanistan, and like Bats, Hides, and Seeks. That's right, bud. Yep. And Stone Vet on here on the I don't know if you can see the what do you call it? I don't know if you can see the comment section on your screen through StreamYard, but
let me see if I can.
So yeah.
There we go. Yeah.
So if when I was a targeter, like if the Green Berets or Special Operations or Special Forces unit or the Rangers or the Marines or whoever I was working with at the time went and did a hit, these are intentional hits. So these aren't accidents. This is like, we've been watching the guy. Targeting is like it's a niche intel. So when you see like a spy movie and you see dudes in a room, it's always fictionalized, but that's the closest thing to targeting, I guess you could get, where I am working. I have a list of targets. I have a target list and a list of targets. Those are two different things. So these are people we know to be bad, and these are people that we're watching now, that we think that we can set up an operation. Some of that's human based. Very probably 15% is based on human. Like, a human source will be like, X, Y, and Z guy is going to be at this house or in the vicinity of this building. You can tell the building because it has a T-shaped gray putt in the front, in the front yard.
Yeah, one of my coworkers, I think, used to do similar intel to that. He would do the human type stuff, and basically hand it to like the SEALs, and the SEALs would go out and basically act on it.
Yep. And the bio data, like he's saying, yeah, we used to use that a lot to act on targets, right? And it's very, very valuable. But you put a lot of pieces together over a long period of time, sometimes short. So some people especially at the beginning of the war, they didn't have OPSEC. How could the white devils from the infidel white devils hear our phone calls? They're like, that's crazy. It's like, oh, no, we can't. You're right. Keep talking. But those are intentional. So when you go into a house like that, or a courtyard, or you're invading an event or something, everybody comes with you. Unless it's a kill target, which is actually not as common as people think. Like, kill or capture, that's the program, right? So if you kill everybody, you don't get follow-on data. There's, you'll get their cell phones and pocket litter and DNA, but that can only take you so far, But like, okay, so let's say you and I are teammates, and I found a target. You're actually going to go with them to because let's say you're interrogation qualified or strategic debriefer. There's a bunch of levels of that. There's probably, depending on your agency or your branch, there's only certain high you can go. Like for the military, we call it level 3s. Or let's say you're humid. Good point. Good point, Josh. So let's say you're a humider, but you're also a targeter. So I'm going to stay back and I'm watching the kill cam, which is, a series of sensors we have, mostly drones, that are looking down at the target site, checking movement, and we're relaying that information back to you and the teams. You go in, it's a successful hit, nobody gets killed, and you've captured 4 people, and it's not a dry hole. It's a good target, right? It's a good hit. Geronimo, for say. You take all those people back. The first thing that happens, right? Obviously, you got to search those people. Actually, let me pull up something. I'm going to share it on the screen. I found a bunch of stuff, but then it turned out it was from WikiLeaks, and I was like, "Fuck, I can't share that shit on a live podcast."
Come on, it's public info.
It's not. It's not if you're cleared. It's not. Detainee operations.
Yeah, you're not allowed to look. It's like if you're in Scientology, you're not allowed to read the Wikipedia page on it.
Right.
Forbidden.
Right. Detainee. Oh, detainee operations. Nope, wrong one. Oh, that's the Air Force. Fuck. Hold on one second. Oh, yeah. Is this it? I think I found it. Hold on.
What are you looking for?
I got a thing. I have a whole folder full of what to do once you capture somebody. Oh wait, maybe this is it. Sorry. Nope. I'm just going to go through them. I'll recognize it right away once I see it. Actually, I put it in a Word doc too. Give me 1 second. Let me see here. Yeah. Okay. All right. So this isn't the actual doc that I just copied from it because I was going to do some key points, but let me share this real quick. And also, hey, Melissa, what's up? How are you? To do it, I don't do roll call, and maybe once I get a lot of viewers all the time, I will. But I want to shout out 4 other channels real quick. Obviously Stone Vets, one of my favorite people. And hey, if you haven't checked your email, please do, good sir. I found some stuff that you sent me from 2011 or 12. I can't remember, but it's your letters of recommendations and things like that. So check that out, man. If you didn't have a copy, you got one now. So also Master Sergeant retired. I've been working with him behind the scenes on a few things. I'm sure you guys will see the what's actually happening with that. Hill Pirate Studios. Fun guys. If you're not watching them, watch them. And then Shiz happens. And Shiz and I have a lot going on that you're not seeing on the scenes. But if you've been watching her, you know that we are officially a company now. We have our own EIN. I have business licenses for the states. We have.
You have a company, Wally?
I have 2 companies now. Yeah. Yeah. And so, yeah, we've got a bank account, got a decent line of credit for not so bad. Not that I'm going to use it because right now I'm in the hole, and for taxes, I want to stay in the hole, at least for now. I want the money to pay for everything, or I don't want to make any. It's kind of, sorry, Josh, that's your Gmail I sent it to. I'm pretty sure. You're like the one I've been using for a while, but okay. So let me, so that being said, I copied this. This is not the original document, just for time. I'm going to share my screen, but there are some points in here that I think everybody can appreciate. So it's there's a few things to consider when you're deployed, even as let's say, oops, fuck you. Goddamn Grammarly, you're getting in my way. Okay. So a few things you need to consider. One is called LOAC, right? And LOAC is the laws of active combat. If you have a LOAC violation, there is going to be an investigation, right? If somebody says, Wally, here's a scenario. Wally was third in the stack. We killed a guy and Wally mercy killed him, right? That is not allowed. Now, what is allowed while you're still actively going into a house, like everybody in the stack or everybody in the row, if there's a guy over there leaning against the wall and he might have been shot, you still shoot him like 3+ times, right? You want to make sure that that guy doesn't magically come back to life and shoot you in the back, right? Because that's happened. That's why we do things like that, or at least when I was still in that world, that's why we did those things, because that shit happens. But if something like that and it was witnessed and somebody didn't like it, that would be a LOAC violation. So there's already Geneva Convention, there's LOAC. Each branch has its own standard operating procedure. So does the DoD. And those are laws that are specifically made so you don't go to prison for serving your country, right? So this is the first one. They caught my eye right off the bat. That's why I copied this. So for this, I was looking for the actual. I worked with a place called Cropper, which was in Iraq, Camp Cropper, which was near Abu Ghraib. It was basically a prison and detainee internment facility. It was interesting place. So I would go out there and I would pick up everything from cell phones, pocket litter, snippets of hair. Sometimes if somebody died en route or they had the bodies, I would take DNA, pictures, go through the backpacks. We'd categorize all the weapons because don't just leave weapons for somebody else to use, right? Either destroy them in place or make them unusable. It depends on your unit how you handle that, but right off the bat, everybody you're captured, once they're not a combatant, you have to treat them with humanity. You can't, sure, if like a detainee punches you, fucking hit him back, right? I had a detainee spit on me and I fucking walloped him. Like I was pissed, and he ended up shitting his pants. And he's crying like a baby, sobbing, right? I didn't even hit him that hard, right? But yeah, they ended up putting him in my Humvee. I was like, fuck, this is so stupid. And he's just stunk up the Humvee. It was pretty bad. So, but yeah, you can't acts of violence once they're incarcerated or forbidden. You can rough people up. They're in the interrogation setting. That's different. There's a difference between like hitting their hands with a hammer and, grabbing him by his collar and yelling at him, right? There's a big difference between those two things. This one's not always true. It just depends on the SOP for that unit. If you can't do stuff, there's always a local component that will. They do have protections.
Local component? You mean like the local population that you're working with?
Not the population, the government.
Oh, okay.
So let's say you're not having any luck and it's been a while, maybe Turkey or Saudi Arabia or another country within the region who has, they have a working intelligence apparatus, and sometimes they take a shot. They take a shot at.
Oh dang! You don't want to go from an American prison to a Turkish prison. That's not.
No, you don't. And once that word got out, they're like, fucking tell them everything, or don't. Like some of them are pretty squared away and not talking.
Yeah. So can we dwell on that for a second? Because I'm a little curious.
Yeah.
Because I've noted, like, obviously I'm a civilian, so I this is all very new to me. But I've heard of this happening in other settings as well. Like the cartels. Like obviously have you seen Sicario?
Yep.
Sicario, like they're the things that they can't do, they basically use the other cartels to do, because the other cartels are rivals. Yep. And so they can like feed them intel and stuff. So this is like a similar type situation.
Yeah, to an extent. We'll get into the Sicario because that's more of a special operation, right? So that's like a presidentially authorized special operation, right? So that those orders, they send the mission up. through the proper channels. President signs off on it. So those rules of engagement can be a lot different, right? Or how you treat a detainee can be a lot different. Like in that particular, that in that particular, like the first scene where they catch Guillermo and they have him in the room, and then it's just Benicio del Toro's character, and he's basically, you see the water there, and he hasn't opened up the water thing. He's literally face fucking the guy. Like, there's no other way to say it. Waterboarding works.
I always slightly wondered about that scene, how ambiguous it was, but I always resisted Googling it because I really don't want to know. That's
what was happening. A real Yankee hell, we've done some clips from them, especially Stone Vet, like the way that they operated, like say in traffic for one, was pretty spot on, except for I see the little things. Like when the guy who's the case officer, not the main character case officer, the guy with the glasses and the button-up shirt, his bolt's locked to the rear in one of the scenes, and I'm like, God damn it. Bolt is with an AR-15, you have your bolt. When you run out of ammo or you're loading, right? You run out of ammo, that bolt locks to the rear.
Yeah.
Take out the magazine, put a fresh one in, hit the button on the side, bolt goes home, you're ready to go.
See, this is the problem. See, this is like us watching hacking movies. There's some things where to just take us out of it, and we're like, I was enjoying it up to that point.
But I'm like, but then I tell myself, well, he was agency, so maybe he didn't know. I don't know.
Make it lore friendly. Whatever the explanation is, make it lore friendly.
Well, yeah, that too. And so you remember that maybe it was Sicario too. Remember when they are in the helicopters and they shoot the driver of the first vehicle, and then they land the second helicopter, the other one spinning. Those are called you have daytime and nighttime that's called a daytime vehicle interdiction. So DVI, and then you have an NDV, nighttime vehicle interdiction operation.
Wait.
Yeah.
Okay.
Most of those happen at night, but when these targets are moving, they can be very time sensitive. So it's not like, well, let's wait till it gets dark, and I mean, there's specific units that really, really train for that.
Well, I imagine it. Well, because of our technology, we probably have a huge advantage at night. Am I like with night vision?
Yep. We own the night. Oh yeah. Yeah. We 100%. So one of the concerns now is that cartels are purchasing and utilizing like tier 1 level top quality night vision for their special operations units, essentially.
Yeah,
which
it's interesting.
It's an issue.
Interesting that stuff is available. Like my buddy, I got to try out some of his night vision a couple weeks ago, and he doesn't have a clearance or anything, but he was able to get some pretty impressive night vision. It was amazing. Like we just tried out in his room. He's like, hey, put these on, turned off the light, completely black, and like it was literally daylight. I could see everything in perfect detail. It was wild.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, that's something. After we finish this, we should talk about the policy change, because we're already on kind of that topic, and while Stone Vet's here, because some interesting stuff is going to happen. But like I said, I mentioned LOAC a couple times. Do you know who Eddie Gallagher is? Navy SEAL. He was in jail in Trump's first term. He didn't let him go. He let him out of prison so he could prepare for his trial. A bunch of his teammates, I don't know that I want to get into the politics of it, but they basically said that he killed this detainee, which is LOAC violation, and then NCIS got him, and it's a ton of shit, basically. But so LOAC's really important. Josh and I and a couple other vets who we all in our circle, we could do a 3-hour podcast on just LOAC, because it's protections for you, and like it's kind of a guide. But and also, like I said, these things vary so dramatically between what type of unit you are. Like even your rules of engagement are different. Like as a targeter with the special ops units and special forces I was on what's called 429. So 429, you don't have to be shot at to engage the enemy, right? Whereas like a lot of Army units, like they had to take fire to return fire, which not for us. If you see somebody in the middle of the desert with a radio, and then you start getting mortared or rocketed, like shoot that guy, right? Like, I mean, it's not personal, right? Like that's the thing with all this. It's not really that personal, but so here's the basics though. You have in, let's say 99.9% of all scenarios where you catch a detainee is in your custody, right? There are very, very they used to be very loose. Now those laws are very straightforward, right? There's not a lot of room for interpretation anymore. DoD directives, Geneva Convention affords basic human dignity and fair treatment. These are things like not like Vietnam would be a great example where it's like if you caught a dude and you caught his family too, like they'll hurt that person's family to get them to talk, right? That type of shit's not really that's not on the table anymore.
Yeah, well, I'm sure there's some difference in interpretation like between regimes, right? Like I'm sure the Turkish interpret the Geneva Convention maybe a little bit more liberally than we do. Would you agree with that?
Well, I would 100%. Okay, here we go. So this happens to basically every detainee. They shall be afforded the following: at clothing, they're given jumpsuits. You know, they get fed, and this can vary. Some of them have depends on the time of year, and this actually document covers Ramadan and Eid, basic Islamic holidays where they do fast. You know, so what's if they're fasting? That's not a hunger strike. Hunger strike's a real thing. Hunger strike, they use tubes and IVs. You know, they strap them down. They get food in them. But
so you let them do the fasting and everything.
Yeah, in my experience, yeah, medical. So we talked about this in the car, right? Like they do. So you catch a guy. First thing that happens is you search him, silence him, right? So whether that's a mouth covering of some, because you don't want them talking to each other. You have to provide security for them, right? So you restrain them, you search them, restrain them, silence them, and then you have typically younger people will keep them all in one place. Then you obviously empty their pockets, all that stuff. Like I carried gloves, I carried bags, I had all sorts of 1 gallon Ziplocs. I had bigger bags for bigger stuff, like 55-gallon trash bags. I had these. They're the only Josh, if you remember, posted in the chat. But they're we have these litters for like casualty litters. They fold up really small. I had the same thing that was kind of like a tote, so I could put larger things in a tote. We had empty totes on top of some of our vehicles too, just normal black with a yellow top. We had these things called alligator cases too. They're shitty little plastic trunks, right? So I had all these things with me to put their stuff in. And so like, if I didn't know their name at the time, I'd be like, you can write on them, right? So that was like, just like we'd write on each other, like, O positive or whatever. And you'd write that all over, you know? So like, if you need blood, hey, I think this guy's O positive, you know? But I'd do like detainee 1, I'd be like mole on his face. You know, I'd have some type of descriptor that says this shit is this guy's, right? And you have to, everything gets triaged, everything gets cataloged, and then you get to work on that. When they get back, they are, I don't think all the time, depends. We also had translators on these ops. So the translators are talking to them, and that's being recorded or taken note of. But yeah, they would do a quick med check. So that's not really a doctor. That's like a corpsman or a medic, right? Or a nurse, right? And they're like, you know, they got him down in underwear, and they got him, okay, this guy has no bullet wounds. He's not losing blood, etc. You know, they would do a quick assessment, skinny, dehydrated. You saw that in every report. Some guys would be wounded. So if they're wounded, they get medevaced. And then they're in a different holding facility first while they're getting medical attention. And then they go, once they're physically able to be interrogated, that's when that starts. But still, you're still taking their stuff and you're still going through it, you know. Forensic piece is obviously really big. We had customized tools, things that look like a joke now, to be honest with you. Like you and I have like autopsy. autopsy has the bigger capability than most of the classified tools I had at that time in theater.
Do you accumulate a lot of that stuff? Like, is there a warehouse just full of like pocket stuff?
Yeah, actually, yeah. Let me see if I can find a picture of it. But going through here, everything else here is, obviously, there's medical people to maintain their health, right? As you probably saw from Abu Ghraib, right? When you don't take care of detainees' health, you end up on the news and you go to jail, right? And it's a big deal.
I don't watch a lot of the news.
Okay, this is old too. This is almost 20 years old now. But Abu Ghraib, basically, let's say the interrogator staff was encouraging the guards to rough these guys up, and on a few occasions they actually killed a few of them from exhaustion and some other things. So Abu Ghraib, let me pull up a clean screen.
For the guys that you took in, like you said, a lot of them were like really sort of dehydrated and malnourished. Did they end up leaving in better condition?
I mean, no, and not all of them, but that was just like anybody in the country's malnourished and unvaccinated and dehydrated. It's kind of a thing, Let me see, Abu Ghraib. Yep, there we go. Okay, I'll just do this. Abu Ghraib's a wild one, man. There was a lot of things that went very, very wrong. Let me make this a little bigger. Let's see, AP News. Well, let's go images first. Let's just see what's there. Oh, and so, like Josh, let me. Yeah, how do I turn that off? Say sure. Okay, there we go. Yeah, these are from Abu Ghraib, right? Oof. These are stress positions. Stress positions are legal.
Illegal?
Yeah, they are legal.
They're legal.
They are legal. Stress positions are legal. But like this.
What is that? What is a stress position? Stress position
is just you're uncomfortable. So they're standing on their tippy toes for 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours, whatever. It's adding a level of uncomfortability that's going to make the detainee want to cooperate. All those enhanced.
So it's torture, but not technically torture.
Exactly. Yeah. But it does is it makes them want to stop the ordeal, and they know exactly what they have to do to stop the ordeal. Right. And sometimes they just like, yeah, what do you want to know? And sometimes they just start talking and they're a treasure trove, but a lot of times they're not. But like this, that's illegal. This is illegal now. It wasn't illegal then. Well, if you had the dog attack them, it would have been illegal, but using dogs as a scare tactic, not illegal, or at least it wasn't. But yeah, I mean, all sorts of stuff. We
don't have to go down all the all the dark rabbit holes. Yeah, I was just curious.
Yeah, it's. Let's see if they got. Oh yeah, here we go. Yeah, so this is Crapper. This is the facility I worked with quite a bit, and they just fed us with so much stuff, or we would go there and get it, depending on who we were working with at the time. But pretty wild.
Do you? I know you can't share anything classified, but do you have any anecdotes, like any instances that stood out to you? Like those are always what I'm interested in, because like the Wally.
Not really. To be honest with you, mine were pretty. Mine pretty innocuous, because I sat in on many occasions on the actual interrogation. Because maybe I was watching that guy for a long period of time, and I knew stuff, and most of the times it's not like you just go in willy nilly. It's like the conversation is had with the case officer or the interrogator or whoever's doing the interrogation and the translator. You're all like, hey, I want you there. Don't say anything this time, or then probably the next time. And I'm like, got it. So I just sit there, look at the guy and listen, and maybe hours and hours and hours. And I just wouldn't say a fucking word, wouldn't interject. And I mean, there's legitimate reasons behind that, but
are you behind like a one-way glass wall or anything like that, one-way mirror? You're in the room with them.
You're in the room with them. Yeah. There are one-way mirrors in some of the facilities. Wait, what is that called? Hold on one second. Let me think. Actually, let me look at my resume. I'm going to look at it on a different screen. Okay, good. It didn't show up. What's that place called? No, wait. Hold on. I'm just going to wing it real quick. Oops. Shit. Fuck. God damn it. CMPQ? Guitar? No, that's not it. All right, it'll come to me. It'll come to me, and then I'll show you. But so yes, there are multiple warehouses, and you would be shit shocked at how crazy big they are. And let's say the war in Iraq, like we've probably only been through 10% of the stuff. Like the phones, the hard drives, probably less than 10%. Even God, while I was in Iraq, the guys at Qatar, they're like, "Hey, Wally, you want to hear something crazy?" I'm like, "Yeah." Like Dave was going through a box and somebody had a live grenade in there where the pin was out, but the spoon was on and it was sat.
Oh, so when they like dumped it out and it was like,
no, they don't. You would never dump stuff.
Oh, yeah.
You
okay.
never. There's no. That's not how that works.
Okay.
Because of that, exactly. Right. That's exactly why you don't dump shit out like that. But yeah, they had to call EOD. Grenade didn't go off, and he's just there. He's like so pissed off. His name is Dave. But yeah.
So literally, it's like an Indiana Jones warehouse of stuff that like you probably barely ever even go through. Like how often do you actually dig something up out of there?
So that's the thing. Everything's triaged, but not everything's been gone through, right? So still, some of this stuff still has value now. So there are teams of people who do go through it, and it's prioritized probably better now. Whereas like when I was in Iraq, my priority was counterintelligence, right? So that was counterintelligence, document, and media exploitation. That was the official title. And I was taking all this stuff from the government more than counterterrorism. And I helped with counterterrorism a lot, just because the CI stuff didn't happen all the time, quite frankly, right? But like, I'd get a call from a translator or from a guy, be like, "Hey, we have a whole pool full of Fedayeen documents." Fedayeen was basically Saddam's Secret Service. The Fedayeen, like their executive protection for Saddam and his kids and shit like that. I was like, yeah. So we did it was the largest captured document cache in history. I mean, it was crazy bigger than World War II Nazi stuff. But
and the Germans documented everything too. They were like they were documenters.
Oh yeah. And so then what we did was got all the translators. We had like 60, 70 translators in my section, and all the analysts, and like we got burlap sacks that these things are in, and we're like, find me the old ones. Like it started like before the Ba'ath Party, Saddam's party took power, till like a day before the invasion. That's how much documents. Like, wow, and so then I'm like,
you didn't have OCR. Like, could you scan them in and do bulk?
Yeah. And no? OCR was brand new, but it wasn't available. Oh, and man. So we had our translators literally, like, let's say a document stapled, like this is a packet of document or a folder. We had a whole process to numerize it, and then their triage would go in there. So document and they scan through it. They're just scanning like documents related to water cleanliness but I was like, you see anything that has to do with a NATO, UN, American, Canadian, Australian, UK, etc., flag that, and we'll put that in this different box. And so that's what we did. I was like, anything with credit card receipts, anything with travel to meet an American, anything like that, flight plans, and that's stuff that we would 100% take in and then put more eyes on.
So. Yeah, dude, it's wild to think about that. Like back then, you know, the quickest way to do it was to put a team of people on it. It's like, you know, well now you just need like one person to scan it in, right? And the rest is just like OCR and LLMs and I'm sure all that. But but dude, think about how much intel do we have in warehouses that we've never actually processed, and how long is it going to be until we have like Optimus robots processing that stuff?
Well, like the FBI had that same problem, digitizing all their paper documents. So I worked for the FBI at RMD, Records Management Division. It's in Winchester, Virginia. But yeah, they literally digitized everything. And it wasn't OCR back then, but they had these massive scanning machines, categorize people's data, all that shit. You know, it's easier now for sure. CMPC. Oh wait, hold on. Wait. Maybe I found it. Yeah, fuck yeah, I found it. God damn, I'm good. Oh shit, let me make this a little bigger. So as far as I know, this place still exists. I mean, I think it does, but yeah, Combined Media Processing Center, Qatar. And this is pretty old, but yeah, basically that's the policy memo. Let's see if they got any pictures in here. Yeah, they do. Yep. New batch documents. Yeah, it all gets broken down, you know, paper. Pocket litter, you'd be surprised how much pocket litter can tell you something, like, you know, crushed up old receipt. There's DocX Suite. Yeah.
Wait, DocX? What is that? Like DocX is in like Microsoft DocX?
That's document exploitation.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, document exploitation. This one right here. Yep. Harmony. That's I don't think Harmony exists anymore, but yeah, this is pretty cool. Actually, I've seen this document before, but it's how to, you know, basically the full instructions and SOP on how to, you know, stamp everything. How do you categorize it, etc. You know,
flow charts and everything in there. Wow. Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah.
Documentation. Gotta love it.
Right. But I mean, just a conflict like Iraq, you're talking billions of documents, not just thousands or millions, billions. Terabytes probably in the billions between phones and computer images, you know. It's a lot of data and it all has to go somewhere. So one of those real crazy things. So nobody thinks about, right? But it's a super important part of intelligence collection and how, like, you know, when a detainee gets caught in the movies, it's just like, I'm going to beat your ass. Tell me what I need to know, you know, and then they waterboard them and then they tell them everything. Right. And it's every case is individual first off. Right. So like, there's not a plan that you can cookie cutter 1,000 times. Right. You can cookie cutter kind of the process, but each individual is different, you know, and then taking what they says, like, you know, like once you get into their phone, like once you start showing them, like, you said you didn't know this guy, but you know that guy. That's crazy. Were you lying to me? You know, like
so. Okay. So basically, you have these documents. Like you're authorized to do certain things. You're not authorized to do other things. Like, how would you compare it? Like, compared to like a law enforcement. So what can you do to a terrorist compared to like you know, like a normal delinquent in like New York? Because that's the difference, right? That's the difference that you talk about when you talk about the cartels being categorized as terrorist groups.
I mean, you have to treat detainees with respect, just like the same, similar to like law enforcement isn't supposed to beat the shit out of people, right? But it's very, very different. Like your rights as in America are civil rights, and you don't have civil rights if you're a detainee, you know, essentially.
What about what about the bigger picture? Like, is like what I'm wondering is like where the difference between criminal and terrorist comes into play, because like what about the geopolitical stuff where like you talk about if someone's a terrorist and they're a threat to national security, like you're allowed to sort of like to some extent break like national I don't want to say treaties, but like you're able to penetrate into other countries with like more authorization than like the police could, right? Like the police in like, you know, El Paso or whatever, like they can't or I don't know if that's in Mexico or Texas, but you know, like the police in Texas can't just walk into Mexico or whatever, right? But like if the cartels are a terrorist group, like can you send like a SEAL team down there if you have to? You know what I mean?
Yes. And especially now. Yeah. So like now that Trump has categorized the cartels, and it's pretty specific, like there's a list as terrorist organizations. Yeah. Like they can use the military to go attack those forces. Wow. You know, just like we would in Afghanistan, just like we would in Iraq, Africa, you know? Yeah. What podcast was it? Joe Rogan had Evan Hafer with Black Rifle Coffee on. And they were talking about that. This is months before the election and all that. But Joe's like, he's like, well, he's like, these cartel guys aren't going to understand like what's happening to them, right? Well, it's like,
yeah, well, like, what has anyone asked the Mexican government what they think? Like, or do they even understand? Like, do they understand that like not only are we renaming the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America, but we're also like sending black ops teams like into their country to like assassinate their like drug lords? Are they okay with that? Or is the cartel and the government like the same thing? I don't even know. I don't know like Mexican politics.
Mexico very corrupt. So right off the bat. Well, hey Wally, where was I was in Nova, but there were some people up there. Most of our people were out in the Middle East. Oh, there you go. The DocTex folks. Yeah. Yeah. So Evan Haver also said in that same thing, he was like, they should retire. Like that's the best thing that they can do for themselves now is quit. Basically.
Is he referring to the cartels?
Yeah, he's referring to the cartels.
Like they should just like pack up and go home. Like, all right, guys,
pack up.
You made a profit. You know,
you had a good run. Go open a restaurant. Go open up a small bungalow on the sea somewhere, right? Because it's like, yeah, you're done. But you're done.
But the issue is like, dude, what do you do with all that demand? Because like the demand has to be filled. Like you can't just stop supplying. You can't just stop supplying narcotics to like millions of people.
I think it'll switch. I mean, obviously, the fentanyl can go right away. The stuff like fentanyl will be the first to be targeted. So the cartel's running fentanyl and building it. They have whole labs, professional clean room environments in Mexico. Those will go away first, right? Then the rat lines, the supply lines, all that, because it's a big, like, what do you see affecting America is just the tip of the iceberg, right? Mm-hmm. Special operations is really good at going at the stuff that's under the surface, you know, the under the iceberg. So they'll attack that pretty dramatically, I think. Precursor materials, right? But they're also going to use Mexico at the same time. I don't know this, but this is what I assume. So it's like, it's in Mexico's best interest to prevent, because right now China can send a whole shipping freighter full of precursor materials that is legal in Mexico, which is how they're able to be so effective at making these drugs. And that's
I've heard the narcotics problem, like the opioid problem, especially in China, is really bad.
In China, but China's also the big cause of the American opioid crisis.
So are they supplying? Is it because they're supplying big pharma?
No, they're supplying precursor materials, and they actually have Chinese scientists and chemists in Mexico who are protected by the cartels, who are making the drugs. So it's a different process than cocaine. Like cocaine, you can make in the rainforest, right? It's chemicals and it's a process to crystallize everything, but fentanyl's more of a lab. Fentanyl is not something you can really just make in a trailer. right? It's not meth. So there are steps that have, and it's not a complicated chemical process either. But let's see if I can find that real quick. I was looking that up the other day, but
my brother is he's a flight medic, so he did a lot of time working in the ER, and he talks about opioids a lot because he talks about they have repeat sort of what they call candy shoppers. So if you're an ER nurse, a candy shopper is somebody who just comes in and all they want is a drug. They want drugs. They're telling you they're in pain. They just want drugs. And there are people who try very hard to get one specific drug, like they really like that one. But like he says, like Dilaudid is like the most requested drug, like among candy shoppers. They'll tell you that they're allergic. They're like, I'm allergic to morphine. Yeah, I'm allergic to fentanyl. Please, I'm the only one I'm not allergic to is Dilaudid. Just give me Dilaudid. Yeah, it's wild. But like, dude, I mean, we really like we have an opioid problem too, and like how much of this whole thing do you think is related to crime versus related to actual competition with our opioid manufacturing?
I think very little. I think it's very little competition. Yeah, because the demand's so high. The competition, if any, comes from the people selling on the ground, not from the distribution. Like the people we're going to be tagged are big level. Like these are the ones who are the billionaires, right? They're, instead of it's the guys on the street are moving maybe a couple keys, where these guys are moving hundreds of thousands of tons a month. So there's no competition for them. What the statistics, something like you have to catch 99% of all drugs coming across the border to then start affecting the cartel's checkbook, right? It's that profitable.
Wow. Just because of how much they're distributing in Mexico?
No, it's not even. Mexico has an opiate problem, not like America's. They have less. They're not into it. It's not a thing that they're not as excited about it. No, they can afford it. Yeah. It's just, they can afford it just fine. It's not a drug they're into, like they like weed and cocaine. They like some other stuff. Right. Whereas like America's been transitioning more to weed because of legalization. Because you don't need, like a lot of people just don't have the need for fentanyl. Right. But people who are already addicted to meth or heroin or Oxycontin, fentanyl has been mixed into those anyway. So they get hooked on it very quickly, and it only takes a microgram to kill you. So the amount in it is very small, and it can be, you can put fentanyl in a lollipop. Well, military used to have fentanyl lollipops, but if you got shot or something.
Oh man, I want to have a fentanyl lollipop someday.
But those are medicals. But like, I mean, it is a very, the utility of fentanyl in a medical environment is significant, right? I've had it many times during surgeries and stuff like that. The way it's used on the street is very, very different. And like, we don't get our medical fentanyl from Mexico. At least I don't think we do. But
yeah, that would be weird. So question though, so when it comes to cracking down the cartels, shutting down like these supply chains and like these labs and stuff that they have, do you think that'll affect some of the other things? Because you know how there are certain businesses in Mexico that cater to Americans who maybe can't get what they need inside the American medical system. Like one example is like Ibogaine, right? Like Ibogaine's illegal right now. You have to go to Mexico to get it. Like, are one of the labs they're going to be destroying, like, going to cut off the supply chain?
I don't think so.
Probably not.
I don't know for sure. I think they're all pretty separate, right? Like different groups specialize in different things. So your fentanyl guys are probably only producing fentanyl. Yeah. The cocaine guys are probably not producing the cocaine in Mexico. It's probably produced in Honduras, maybe a little bit of Costa Rica and Colombia. No, I think it's pretty partitioned. I don't know for sure, but that's my assumption. So, yeah, it's going to be crazy though. I mean, the effects in America once this starts it's gonna be pretty immediate, right? Like people are not going to be able to get their drugs, right?
We're gonna
That's
get a
going to cause
3. We're gonna get Sicaria 3 probably.
Oh, that'd be great. But I mean, it's gonna stop a lot of the deaths in America, though, for sure, right? It's 100% going to stop a lot of them. People will probably the people who are so addicted, like they're beyond that hill of like they're going to die from it. I imagine they'll go back to meth because you can make meth at home. You know, I bet the price of meth skyrockets because there won't be the supply versus demand.
Yeah,
but the actual fentanyl.
Just ask your LLM. Just ask your DeepSeek LLM. It'll tell you how to make meth. Although for some reason it won't tell you though what happened in Tiananmen Square.
Yeah.
Did you see
we'll talk about that yeah, I did. Yeah. I was just before this, I was on a call about DeepSeek with a very, very smart individual I'm associated with. And that's something they sent me some things and I'm like, what the fuck? And then I like started looking into it. I was like, there's more to this than looks the eye. Like if you look at people who work for DeepSeek on LinkedIn, funny that all their accounts look pretty much the same, right? It's all got the only place they ever worked is DeepSeek. They all got PhDs from like Stanford or University of Chicago or what have you, right? I'm like,
oh man, that's wild. How many of them are real people, dude? Okay, I saw that story this morning. This morning, I went into work. Okay, Mark sat down next to me, and he's like, "Joel, did you see this thing about DeepSeek? Because I just set up DeepSeek. I just downloaded it and set it up on our GPU rig that we use for cracking passwords called Crack House. I just set it up there, and I was playing around with it. It's pretty neat, right?" Mark tells me, he's like, "Joel, I saw this post on LinkedIn. It's like DeepSeek won't tell you what Tiananmen Square is." And I was like, "Are you sure about that?" Like. And so we tested, we sat down and we asked DeepSeek like what the historical significance of Tiananmen Square was. And it was like, "I'm sorry, I cannot help you with that." I was just like, wow, this like there are like lots of American companies using this model right now.
Mm-hmm.
And like we don't know how deep the Chinese censorship goes. Like we don't even know we don't even know like what their process was for that. Because like how did they manage to censor it so heavily while having it outperform all the other models? Like it's like a really good model.
Well, it's in Mandarin. Let's see. But I'll send you this. I mean, I don't want to say it. I don't think I'm supposed to say it on podcast, but there's a lot more going on under the surface. And shell companies, right? How it's getting funded, and the process of them getting GPUs. And then like today, what did the stock market do? Something with $1 trillion loss?
Well, yeah. Nvidia's stock plummeted yesterday. It went down a lot. It's on sale right now, by the way. I recommend buying it. This is not investment advice, but Nvidia is on sale right now.
Oops, shit. I just pressed the wrong button. Yeah, let's look at that. Window.
Well, okay, so do you know, Wally, and can you tell me what type of GPU DeepSeek was trained on?
No. My assumption is I'll have that information very shortly. So
okay. Because I assumed it was trained on NVIDIA, but I know that there were some Chinese startups that were trying to start their own GPU chip manufacturing.
Yeah. Yeah, well, of course they are. Yeah, so are we. You know, we're going to need it with that. What's it called? Stargate program. That's going to be crazy, right?
Yeah. What is that? Like $100 million?
More than that. I thought they said 500 million.
That's why.
Or 500 billion. No, billion. Wasn't it billion?
100 million seems like a pretty not very much for OpenAI. Considering how much, considering that Sam Altman said that he could, like, if they were to give him like trillions of dollars, like he could spend it. He's like, oh, I could spend it.
Yeah, I'm sure he could. He was taking that drug we were talking about. Where's the ticker? But
Sam Altman?
Yeah. No, not that guy. Hold on. Who's the FTK guy or FTZ? He's in jail now.
Oh, he's the other Sam. It's another Sam.
Yeah, the other Sam.
The other Sam. I don't know. I don't know.
Fuck.
I actually never like heard the story on that.
Oh, Sam
like
Bankman-Fried.
Yeah, was it a crypto thing?
Yeah, crypto. Yeah. So he was doing some weird drugs. He was doing an MAO inhibitor.
What is
so like?
Wait, is that what you take with DMT?
Yes, the natural DMT is 5-MAO DMT, 5-methoxyethylate. Let's Google it.
Wait, so he was just taking that, or he's taking it with other stuff?
No, he was just taking the MAO inhibitor and
what
other stuff.
Like,
I'm not sure. I've heard stories about it, but it's like, I've heard stories about methyl ibuprofen.
It reduces your fear of risk. Oh, so it's like a Xanax type thing?
Well, I never heard it described like that, but I don't know. It's interesting that he was taking that though, because like, apparently, if you take an MAO inhibitor and then eat mushrooms or something like that, like it'll fuck you up like bad. Like apparently, like there's people who've been like tripping for weeks because of that.
No,
that would be bad, you know?
Yeah, that would be bad.
Reduces the fear of risk. Holy shit. Okay. All right. Yeah, that's so weird. Yeah, and like one of my used to be a good friend. He was a singer in a band I was in. He did way too much acid, and then he like essentially lost all fear. He had to go into this rehab in Nevada. Ended up getting like, he said he got touched by God. He had this huge electrical burn from his back to his back of his thigh. Like, I'm like, what the fuck? You know? But yeah, he was just like walking in traffic, like, you know, like not, there's a car coming at me. Oh, no big deal. He wasn't trying to kill himself. He was just like, oh.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. So I listened to a Dark Knight Diaries episode recently, which is one of my favorite ones. It's called Aria, but it's about this Pakistani kid his parents came to America. He was born in America. He started making fake IDs when he was in high school, selling them on the dark web. He became a Xanax dealer, and so he was like on Xanax and Adderall at the same time, which you should never do, by the way. But yeah, that's what he said about that combination. He was like, when you're taking Xanax and Adderall, he's like, you have zero fear, and you need fear, like even small amounts of fear, just to prevent you from making like really dumb decisions. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I wonder, so I'm taking Adderall again, and it's been great. And my doctor's really, but I'm also taking, like, the goal was, okay, your blood pressure has to be regulated before we're going to start you on anything. And that took a while, but it's very regulated to the point where it's actually good, like a lot, which hasn't been that way in quite some time. But I also have a prescription for, it's for stopping smoking, but I already quit. So I like quit smoking cigarettes, not vaping, but
okay.
Yeah, I haven't bought a pack since maybe late November. Yeah. That combined with, drying out from alcohol. I haven't had a drink since December. So
congrats, dude. Congrats. That's awesome.
What was what am I thinking? Hold on. Wellbutrin. So I don't need to take Wellbutrin anymore because I don't have any depression issues, but it did kind of work a couple of years ago when I took it. I wonder if that's quite the odd couple when it comes to pharmacology. You know what I mean? This Adderall, like the first week I started taking it, well, the first month I only took the extended release like in the morning. Mm-hmm. And then I told my doctor, it's like, well, it works great. What I used to do is I used to take this and this, one in the morning, one in the like lunchtime. So she gave me the non extended release for lunchtime. Like the first day I took both. I mean, I was like, it actually works for me. So I don't get high off of it. It's not like one of those, but I felt good. Like, that's what I will say. I felt really good, really
Yeah.
happy, you know?
Is it like, so it's almost like sort of an upper and a downer type situation, right? Because like Adderall, I feel like Adderall kind of accelerates you, and then like the antidepressants, they're really fear suppressors, right? Is that kind of just like,
aren't they HT 5-HTP? No, wait, no. Hold on. Serotonin reuptake serotonin reuptake inhibitors. So the serotonin does something. Serotonin then into serotonin SRI drug class. Oops. So he's on the channel a lot. He was MJ. Actually, you met MJ, didn't you, down at Hack Redcon? The most recent one. Were you there?
Yeah. What do you look
He
like?
was like, he's short, skinny.
MJ,
Yeah,
MJ.
he came with us to Michter's and everywhere else.
Yeah.
That MJ. So MJ was big into the EDM scene, and he knew all about SRIs, SSRIs, because of ecstasy back in the day, like how it worked and stuff like that. And then you could still go to Walmart. You could still get a serotonin reuptake inhibitor, like in a pill form. It's like, to get your serotonin up, but because you get a drop after you do a lot of these drugs. So if you were to do an antidepressant for a while and then you stop cold turkey, like your serotonin levels will drop. And so SSRIs prevent the body from reabsorbing serotonin. The increased serotonin levels can regulate mood, sleep, appetite, and other bodily functions. Used to treat depression, obviously. They also treat anxiety, bulimia, and premature ejaculation. Well, it's a miracle drug.
Wow. Huh. All right. Why aren't we all taking it?
I know.
All right.
Well, yeah, but I don't think I'm going to mix because I don't need to, right? Like, I don't know. There's so many people who've been in trouble when they were on SRIs. I think every school shooter in 10 years was on over a cocktail of SRIs. Like I don't think they're good. From the veteran standpoint, like it's probably still going on, maybe not as bad now, but they like if you went in, my back hurts, this hurts, whatever. You got antidepressants, you got Oxycontin, you got like all these really serious class drugs, and you're taking them all together, and people became different people, right?
Yeah.
They were unrecognizable, like mentally.
Yeah,
like, they're just weird.
I mean, honestly, we give Mexico a lot of crap for having a drug problem, but we really do have a drug problem. I think we do as a society. Like I find drugs to be fascinating. I like talking about them, but I don't hardly ever take them because like the thing is like they really do. If you take them a lot, like they do make you a different person. And I think that in general, like what would be good for us as a society is not to just take different drugs, but mostly just to take less.
Yeah. Or like, gosh, he was the pioneer of psychedelics, Terrence McKenna, right? Terrence was like, he saw weed. Like you would think weed's like, I think weed should be just in general legal anyway. I don't think it's that bad, especially if it's used correctly. But like he thought weed was supposed to be taken very rarely in conjunction before or after a hallucinogenic, but in massive quantities. Like right now, I think, what is it? 20 milligrams edible is technically a full dose. Anybody on here who eats edibles, tell me, but he was taking like thousands, right? And smoking, like just it does something different in super high doses than it does in small doses. Same with hallucinogenics. So like mushrooms, 5 grams is a hero's dose of psilocybin cubensis. But he was taking 25 and 30, and like you go somewhere different. It's basically the effect on that much hallucinogenics is more like dimethyltryptamine or ayahuasca.
You're blasting off somewhere.
Yeah, like you go through the like DMT's in our bodies, and they like the theory is when you die, people go through the white light. That's a massive. Your system's giving you the liver, lungs, pineal gland are giving you this massive dose of dimethyltryptamine, right? And it's you go through the white light.
It makes you think, right? It makes you think with like all the time dilation that happens. Like, what if you actually are living forever? Like, what if that last trip lasts forever? What if that's eternity?
That would be cool, and that goes in line with like physics in a sense. Nothing ever really goes away, except for potentially a black hole, right? Like so. Like when I die, yeah, sure, my body's gone, but like, how do you measure consciousness, let's say, or like all those cells go to somewhere else? We're already all parts of fucking dead stars, like, I don't know. Yeah. There's something to it. I don't know that I'll ever figure that one out, but
did you watch the Joe Rogan with the guy the My Big Toe guy?
No.
Oh, okay. So there's like, okay, I just learned about him, but like, it's a book. It's called My Big Toe, and toe stands for theory of everything.
He's an older guy. Yeah.
He's an older guy, has lots of wild sounding ideas, right? And they're like sort of intermixed with like, he has like paranormal stuff, but like physics stuff also. And he's done lots of experimentation, like scientific experimentation with it. Very, very odd, very interesting. He has some interesting things to say about consciousness, and like I'll admit that like I'm not fully onto all of his ideas, but he said something that really like resonated with me, and I think was something that I have felt for a long time, but that I always kind of had trouble like putting into words. But the way he talked about how we work so hard, especially in Western society. We work so hard in sharpening our intellect. We really go hard on logic and, all this stuff. And we really work that part of our brain. But that our intuition has kind of atrophied, and there are cultures and parts of the world where it's a lot more alive, but in us, it's sort of fallen asleep, and we're so logic heavy, that we could really afford to listen to our intuition a little bit more. And there are like areas, there's sort of like dimensions of consciousness that are there that we haven't explored because we've gone so hard in the science direction, And I think, that was really what resonated with me.
I'm gonna have to read it. He's completely new. I feel like I had this conversation like in the 90s or something, right? When we didn't have the internet. And like, dude, do you ever see this book? There's a whole book on what mushrooms to eat and what mushrooms not to eat. I'm like, like, don't eat that one. That will kill you. That one stops protein synthesis in your kidneys and you die. Oh, I don't know. I feel like you can artificially. I had this conversation about ibogaine with you too recently, but like the consciousness thing and drugs like ibogaine. My neighbor's like, is it people? I've heard it's spiritual, and I was like, well, I think it's probably smart to get away from the spirituality and hallucinogenics, right? Because it's not actually. I don't think that's what's happening. I don't think it's a spiritual experience at all. I mean, I guess you can think it is, but it's chemicals. Like it's a chemical reaction, right? It's a reaction to a thing that's either taking something away or creating a lot of it, and then you're getting that rush effect. But I don't know. All this is crazy shit, right?
It is, and really, we're all just speculating because the thing is like we all have consciousness, and we're all experiencing all of this through our consciousness, right? But like. We really can't explain consciousness, and it seems to kind of be at the core of everything, and we don't really know why it exists, but we just know that we have it, and it's kind of weird.
If I was going to get high, I get high with that guy. I mean,
Oh,
look at that
definitely,
guy.
dude. Definitely.
Look at that
guy.
It's like, hey, man.
Dude, the thing is that if you got high with him, like you'd be all ready to have this deep conversation, and then everything he'd say would just be so over your head because he's been tripping for like 60 years and he's so far ahead of you. You just, you know what I mean?
Right. Right. God, that's so crazy. That's so fun. I mean, isn't he like a doctor too? He's a doctor, right?
Yeah, he's a legit physicist. He spent
That's right.
He spent
Physicist.
like the first, like his early 20s, he was like programming on punch cards and like working on
UVA. Yeah.
Dude,
that's so crazy that how they had a code back then.
Yeah.
And then I remember now. Yeah. So he started with meditation and then he moved on to something else and he found the errors in his code through the meditation and he thought he was only in there for a few minutes, but it was like hours and hours and hours, right? Something like that.
Yeah,
that's
and
interesting.
That is wild, but like that type of stuff has happened to me. Like not like seeing the lines of code that were like highlighted in red or anything like that, but like it's kind of like a shower thought, right? Where like the instant that you're not thinking about it is the instant you have the epiphany, and it really is wild. It's like wherever that answer comes from, it's not like, it feels like it's not you. It feels like it's coming from somewhere else, and it's just like broadcast. You're like, oh, it's weird. I don't know. I can't explain it, but yeah.
Well, I feel like if we actually like in the up to sometime in the 70s or 60s, right? There were actually people studying this stuff, right? And then like basically when the drug scheduling acts came out, like that research went away and it became all experimental. Like just like, okay, this one's not poisonous. Let's see what it does. Like where I would like to see a more scientific approach to consciousness and things like what the Campbell's doing. Like, I mean, he's pretty scientific with it and it is over most people's heads the way he describes things, but I kind of get it, but I just want to see more of it. So like, cause if you have like a medical journal, like there's going to be somebody who can like put it in layman's terms. Like, here's what's actually happening. Here's why this works or this doesn't work. Here's why it's beneficial to you. Like, here's why you should be doing this instead of not doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder like what I wonder is like, if some things can even be approached with science. Because like the thing about science is that we kind of have a tech tree. You ever played a video game as a tech tree, like StarCraft, right? Or like, you start off, you have your steam engine, and then you have your internal combustion engine, then you have your electric engine, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So we have this sort of like tech tree, and this tech tree started with language, when language was invented, written language, 5,000 years ago, whatever, and we've just been building on it. And today we have LLMs, right? Which is like the culmination of this technology. We have logic and we have science, all this stuff. But like what tech trees? Humans have been around for 100,000 years. What other tech trees existed before language? What other types of knowledge were people building on? And like, what I wonder is like, what were those types of knowledge that weren't using logic? Like, what if there were like types of like wisdom that were being passed down generation after generation that was really like intuitive, like use the intuitive side of your brain. It's fascinating to think about that stuff, because I will say, like, if you so can I tell you a story?
Yeah.
Okay, so once upon a time there was a boy, and the boy he wanted to be a hacker, and he spent a long time studying really hard and reading lots of books, and basically just drinking lots of caffeine and going hard late into the night, and basically this boy became a reasonably, he became good with computers, and and like this boy, which I should just drop this whole act. Okay, this is like an experience. This is my experience. Okay, so this is the experience that I had, where like my whole childhood I was raised believing and sort of like being taught that everything could be solved by like careful analysis. so like my parents were both like very analytical, and we weren't a very emotional family. We just sort of like approached everything very, very logically. And this helped me get into computers. You know, I was like, okay, you know, like, you know, coding and stuff like this kind of comes naturally to me because I'm so used to the logic thing. I, for a long time, have wanted to write a book. Okay. And I like when I was like 12 years old, I like was writing like a historical fiction book, right? But like, you know, this like, you know, character in medieval times who like learned how to be a knight and sword fight and all this stuff. Okay. Obviously never published that. If you read it now, you cringe. It was terrible. I had a fun time writing it. I've always wanted to write stuff. And I've always sort of like been attracted to art and stuff as well. But it took me 27 years to learn this lesson. And that lesson was that when it comes to things like art, and I don't know, it's still a mystery to me. It's still a mystery to me. Things like art and writing, when it comes to creative art and writing, you can't use logic to solve them. Like, no matter how hard you focus and no matter how like many books you read on how to be a good writer or how to form, you know, unpredictable, enjoyable plots and do all this stuff, like it's like you're going in the wrong direction. It's like you don't need logic for that. It's weird. It's like it's a different direction. And it's like that was the most shocking thing to me, was that like these people who have like written these like amazing authors who've written these like beautiful books like Lord of the Rings, right? Like, you know, they didn't accomplish that through logic. Like they were channeling something else. It was a different thing. And like maybe it's just the other hemisphere of the brain. You know, maybe there's a different area of the brain that we're just not using, that like, you know, the artist's sort of like ideas come from. But it was shocking to me that like that wasn't that you couldn't accomplish that through analysis, you know? Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, no, it totally makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Especially the things like, how did those people, let's say Tolkien's a good example, and like a lot of the other like epics, right? They're writing about things that they saw in their head, and then it grew, right? But they didn't exist, you know. It's so there's no logic to orcs, you know. It's, you know, I agree. And like the art, like, because I went to, before 9/11, I was going to be an architect, you know, and that's very art heavy. It's very experimental in a lot of ways. And so like, how do you think about something that doesn't exist, right? But we do it every day, all the time, right? If you just were analytical, well, a square will work in your roof. Let's do a 45-degree pitch roof. You know, water will go off of it, and it's a very strong structure. You know, but if you were thinking analytically, every building would be a circle. You know, because you know the center of gravity is below the ground.
That's a good point. It's a good point, dude. Like architecture, there's a huge art component to it, and what's weird is like you see it, like you recognize it when you see it. You recognize a building where somebody where like the person who designed that was an artist. You see it. It's different. Like you, versus like a perfectly rectangular skyscraper that maybe is like very, very sturdy and very practical, whatever. Like, but there's just something, there's like this beauty, right? It's like beauty. It's like to create something that's beautiful. Like, it requires something else. Like it requires, like logic can help you. Like, don't get me wrong.
Logic helps you with function, right? So if you build this just to be functional, it's going to be functional, right? Like, but if like the old buildings in New York City, downtown, right? They got these beautiful ornate marble, right? And any new building past the 90s, no, in the 80s for the most part too. But the ones built in the 40s and 50s, you know, they had somebody that was going to be 15 years of their life, you know, and they built it, but it has no function, so it doesn't have like structural logic to it, but it looks nice, right? And that's pretty much the same thing, you know. But I was like, I we kind of ended up in the same spot, but I was raised very different. Like my parents, I was raised more in a religious household than anything, right? So like the whole analytical processes didn't really exist, you know. So yeah, but it's there's a lot more to it in my situation being adopted because I'm not biologically related to the parents I grew up with. So obviously those differences manifest themselves in like your artistic ability or your music ability, like things like that, your creativity.
Yeah. The most mysterious thing about all of it to me is just how ephemeral that like thought process is. It's like whatever that mysterious source of like inspiration is, like the more you focus, the further away it gets.
Fair enough.
Like, it's like a balancing act, right? It's like the harder you try and the more you focus, it's like, you like it's like meditation. Meditation is just like, I'm gonna empty my mind, and some things are gonna come close to me that I didn't even know I had. It's like, yeah, it's something.
I also feel like writers, like, I mean, a lot of the best writers did hallucinogenics, right? There's got to be something to that as well, though. Like,
Yeah.
Or the Beatles. Let's say the Beatles. Look at the Beatles before acid and after acid. Like that's a tangible result, right? Like, not that their music was bad before, but it was much different after. And they, I mean, individually, some of them went off the deep end, but with whatever name, Yoko and all that crap from that era. But
yeah,
it's wild, man. It's wild. But see, the thing is, I think you can I think you're right. Like, can you really put a scientific stamp on consciousness or X, Y, and Z, right? Those things that everybody has, but we can't, which it's just there,
Yeah.
But I feel like it'd be cool to try. Because if you could unlock consciousness, then you could maybe, oh shit, MJ's here. He said, hey, let's put him on screen.
Hello.
That's MJ. We're just bullshitting, dude. You should come on later in the week or next week. Probably next week. I got what's going on this week? I got basketball games. I got the kids a couple evenings. And then there's the DC car show this weekend, which we're going to. Because the boys want to see cars that I can't afford. So boom. Yeah.
What else do we have in the docket? You had some like ancient civilization stuff, right?
Yeah, I actually got it on the screen.
Okay.
And it kind of goes into what we're talking about now.
Can we take a short bio
yeah.
break?
Go
Sweet.
for it.
All right. Yeah.
All right, sounds good. Why, hello everybody. So, what time is it? I'm gonna go pee real quick too. I'll be right back. Oh, hello. I was doing some straightening up in here today. I got a lot more to do.
You got some you got impressive swag up there. What do you got?
I got some fun stuff. I got the flags, gun safe. That's books and knickknacks. I got a bunch of knickknacks over here. That's Mikhail Gorbachev. It's a squishy.
A what?
I like Russian propaganda, right? So I found this somewhere. Yeah, I guess it's a chew toy.
Wait. Hold on. Who is that?
It's Gorbachev. You know, he's got the Mikhail Gorbachev.
Okay.
He's the PM for Russia. I don't remember the years. Let's see. He was the first one to talk with. He really had some good sit downs with Reagan.
So he was what Putin is now.
Yes. Mikhail Gorbachev. Yeah, he had a big mole on his head. Like that's how he's like super recognizable, like historically. So he was in charge when Chernobyl happened. I remember that, but
doesn't look too great on a resume, does it?
Yeah. So he's got this. Yeah. Well, we didn't go to war, so
yeah. Right, okay. Yeah, that's a plus.
You know. And then I got stuff like let's see, like these are from the 90s, but like the Welcome to the Party got all the communist people in it. Those are all I like. Fallout. I got all the figurines, you know, and then I got my like Indian shit that I've found over the years all over the place in here.
Would you have your do you have that tapestry?
Yeah, it's right here. Yeah. Actually, let me turn on this light. Actually, that light's not plugged in. Yeah, there it is. So let me zoom in a little bit. Let me go in a little bit. Actually, let me turn on this light.
Yeah, I was looking at the picture you sent of that, and yeah, that looks super old. How old do you think that is?
Dude, I kind of wish I knew, but if I knew, I think I'd probably be pissed off that I didn't take better care of it when I was moving from house to house over the years, you know. But like, yeah, that's Aramaic, and what it is like some of these. Let me find one of them where they're eating. So I think this one's Eucharist right here, but there's ones where they're eating. That's right there's part of a coffee ceremony, I know for sure. They have some in Ethiopia. They got some really interesting like, but yeah, and it's pretty cool. I need to get it. I need to figure out what it says. I have an Aramaic dictionary. Oh, these are cool. These are Ethiopian Orthodox crosses. That is made on camel. I bought that in Ethiopia. That's how. So they have when you meet somebody, it's really friendly society, right? Like super friendly. Like they have this stuff called injera, which is the world's smallest grain. It's gluten free. It makes this spongy bread, and so you all sit around and you grab these like dips with the bread in your hand, and you feed it to somebody, at least initially. You know, There's some more those crosses, Ethiopian Orthodox crosses. Those are pretty cool.
Wow, yeah.
And then yeah, that's the last Barnum and Bailey's. Got the Constitution. Actually,
you
made that.
filled like every inch of wall space.
Yeah, I know, and I still got some more I got a ton more to hang up. I 3D printed that rifle hanger. It stayed. But yeah.
How many rifles have you 3D printed? How many rifles have you 3D printed, Wally?
I don't know. Actually, I got one right here, I think. Or a pistol, at least. Yeah, dude. How about that? It's just a lower, but I messed up this one.
Here,
yeah,
maximize your.
Oh yeah. Of course. Stop sharing. Yeah, that's a lower, but like the like the structure inside didn't come off like it was supposed to, and so I'm just like, okay, well, that was a good experiment, you know.
Yeah.
But it's actually like the structure is very, very good. Like it'll work as a normal firearm.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to. There's parts I wouldn't want to print, but you know, it is what it is. I mean, I could see there being issues in other areas, but I wouldn't bet my life on it. You know what I mean? But like, as like a proof of concept and just kind of experimenting and tinkering, I like it. I like doing stuff like this. You know, I've made like most of the stuff gun wise I make is practical, right? So I have these. I wonder if I got one right here. I do. Holy shit! I'm lucking out today. Like this is pretty simple, right? It's it's got the honeycomb structure, smooth on the top. Then it's just got 2 drill holes, you know. And this, like, I have these in my closet, and this magazine sit on them because magazines don't stack really well, and so it's practical. It's a practical gun thing. Gun hangers for the wall, like that one, I don't have the bolt in, so like a kid's friend couldn't come over, put around it, and shoot somebody. So, but it's a cool decoration, you know. It's like somebody's like, "Is that a gun on the wall?" It's like, sure is, pal. You know, people just aren't expecting stuff like that, or they are, and they're like, "Yeah, I'm weird," you know. Speaking of weird stuff, let me grab this. There we go. This is the one my dad found in the yard in Lebanon, Illinois, which is close. We have mounds in our town. But yeah, that's that thing I sent you.
Oh yeah. You sent me a picture of that.
So yeah, that's the size in real life. And it's, I don't know, it's about 2 pounds, maybe. But good one, MJ. Sorry, I wasn't looking. It is. It really is. Yeah, but like, I've never seen anything like this. Everybody I've talked to, you got these. This is from him hitting it with a shovel, but that's weird. These. Yeah, there you go. You can see him in the shadow. Like it's got texturing on the bottom for some reason. And then it's got these odd. Let's see if you can kind of see them. These holes, and they're kind of in a V, like I don't know. And then the other side's got also some lines. You can kind of see them in the shadow right there. You can feel them, but
yeah, dude,
like it's not, but it's not deep enough. Well, you could put incense or herbs in there and light it on fire.
Yeah, it was probably like a grinder, like a mortar type thing, right?
Yeah, but it's not a circle. When you grind stuff, it'll inherently turn into a circle, right?
Yeah.
But it's not ground down, right? It's like, it's not. I don't think that maybe not over a long period of time, but maybe a short period of time something was ground, but it doesn't seem like it at all.
You think it was what about like a grindstone for like sharpening?
Well, that's kind of what I thought for some reason, because like, maybe these are for like sharpening in some way, and maybe like these are the diameter of a arrow, like maybe they scraping bits off the arrow to make it more
I don't know.
aerodynamic.
Can you sharpen rock the same way you sharpen steel like that?
That's a good point. I don't know.
I don't know.
It's not obsidian in Illinois. It's a slate and shale and stuff like that. And I forgot what the other one. God, I can't remember the other one. But
oh yeah, you want to see this one? This one.
Oh yeah. That's cool shit.
This I think has been chipped. It looks like a lot of it has been chipped, like sort of very carefully. So
right.
I don't know, like I don't know. Maybe it was supposed to be like a spearhead that kind of got botched, and they gave up on it or something. I don't know. Yeah, hard to say.
And that's Montana, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
this was really. Do you think it is what I found on like the other examples of?
Yeah, I think there's a good chance it's amber. I found it in our backyard. Well, we had growing up, we had 2.5 acres that had a lot of pine forest. And yeah, I found this beneath one of the pine trees, and but the weirdest thing was that like it was just laying on top of the pine needles. Like it was just laying there one day, and I'm like, I had been there I went there almost every day, and today there was just like this thing laying there. So it was, maybe somebody, like, nobody was on our property, so I don't know. It's weird. It probably, what I wonder is, like, maybe it's a piece of amber that got lodged in a tree, and the tree grew and grew and grew and finally spit it out, and it just fell.
I mean, that makes sense. I mean, because I've never seen, we don't have forest in Illinois. Well, down south we do, but like the stuff down south, like when I in the 80s and 90s, when I would be down there, a place called Camp Onasunk, it's in the Shawnee National Forest. And I spent a lot of, my grandpa volunteered there a lot. I mean, I spent a fourth of my childhood there, but like you'd just be walking, and it's where the glaciers stop. So Illinois and the Midwest is flat because of the glaciers, right? And then they stopped. And so we have our own Garden of the Gods, just like you would in Colorado in the Rockies, but it's the Illinois version. And it, cut out some wonderful cliffs. It's basically like, I don't know, I'm guessing here, 200 miles long, and it's maybe 100 to 300 feet high in some spots. In some spots it's lower, but there's still, you can just walk and see cave art and rock art from the Indians. And it's like 100% like not people. It's not graffiti. But in the areas where there's flowing water, I mean, there's just arrowheads everywhere, and axe heads, all sorts of stuff. But like I asked one of the guys down at the museum, I took pictures of this. I had left it in Virginia, but I took some really high quality pictures with a ruler, so you could get examples of size, different lights, I had asked him, like, what do you think? He's like, hey, he took me into his office and he showed me some other things that were similar, but they're not the same at all, right? He's like, this is what we think was used for blah, blah, blah. And it's like, you see how shallow it is? It doesn't serve you couldn't carry fluid in it, But he was like, it's also made of stone. Like the Indians who were there, in the Cahokia, the Mississippian people, like they, hey, Biff. What's up, buddy? Leaders coming up. Nice. Fuck yeah, man. Happy for you. They made a lot of stuff with clay, and then they painted it, right? And they kilns and stuff like that. But like, this might be ancient, right? That's what he said. He said my guess first. He's like, my first guess. It's one of two things. Either has something to do with the settlers, because some of the settlers would, on their long journeys, the kids would build stuff. He's like, I've never seen anything like that. He's like, or it's ancient, like end of the Ice Age type.
Wow. Yeah. That'd be wild. I mean, how much stuff from the Ice Age has survived with all the flooding that happened? Like anything that was here, I'm sure, like either got buried or just totally destroyed.
Well, yeah, because it would have gotten destroyed in Illinois because the glaciers peeled off the whole layer, and then they dumped the sediment. So anything that was there, just like glaciers do now, it just tears it apart, rips it up,
Yeah.
But like I had asked him, like, so in a life, like let's say a standard Indian maybe lived 38 years old or something like that, right? Like how many arrowheads and stone tools would they go through in their life? Like, is it hundreds? Is it thousands? They actually went through a lot. Like the art of making these tools they were pretty proficient at it, right? It wasn't like, oh, well, we got it. It was like a very well-established thing that they did, That's why there's so many. Like, I think when the peak of their civilization, there's like in the town alone, there's like 35,000 people. But in the area, like even my town, we have our own mounds. So there was hundreds or thousands or dozens of people. And those are all across Illinois and Missouri, and like the Ozark people. They were in that new movie with Ozark movie about the Ozark people. And it was a trading hub. So like I showed you the one that was Obsidian. And then I watched literally a day later, I had to go like figure out what I was talking about. And hold on, sorry, movie Ozark Indian people. and murders. Flowers, killers of the flower moon. So that the Ozark people, those are the actual Mississippians from where I grew up. And like a bunch of these Indians groups became other groups, but they're all centralized. But they obviously traded because Obsidian, the closest. Well, let's see. Let me do a map real quick. Where is Obsidian found in America? I mean, and that arrowhead cut me.
Dude, so when I was in Montana, we had a little fort, and I can't remember what it was called, but it was right near Stevensville, Montana.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the old trading fort from like the settler days, and they used to have events there, and we used to go there, and there was this guy who could make obsidian arrowheads. And so he gave a class on it, which he wouldn't let. It was just us watching him do it because it was too dangerous. Like obsidian is so sharp. And I remember this so well because at the end of that, when he had his arrowhead, he had so many cuts in on his hand that literally he was dripping blood, and everyone was like, "Are you okay?" He's like, "Oh yeah, it happens every time."
It's like sharper than a scalpel. It's like it's crazy sharp.
Just a tiny chip that like it doesn't even need to press hard. Like it'll cut you. Yeah, it's wild.
So yeah, like it made its way to right here, at some point. But the Mississippi River Delta is up here somewhere. So
wow, so everything in red is where obsidian is found.
That's where obsidian can be found.
Wow, so that looks like the Continental Divide.
I know. Isn't that weird? And I was going to say, like Montana, like if you went by its east borderline, it's like straight down.
You know what that almost means? It almost seems like that. Like the reason for that would be flooding. Like if one side just got really flooded and all washed away or something. But it's weird because like is obsidian volcanic?
Yes, it's all volcanic. Yep.
That's kind of weird because the Rocky Mountains aren't volcanic mountains. Like none of them are volcanic.
Right. But way back there was volcanoes. Yeah. So, oops. Yeah. This is the Garden of the Gods in Illinois. So Illinois is flat, and then all of a sudden it's not. Right. And it's really pretty, to be honest with you. I think it's one of the most beautiful places in the country. Wow. And yeah, I spent a lot of time here. Yeah, it's super cool. Like we used to jump. That's this rock on the top is like super iconic. Where'd it go? And it's like some of it's sandstone, so it's kind of crumbles. But yeah, like these rocks. Like we used to jump from the one to the other, like certain death if you fuck up. I would never do that bullshit now. But yeah, it's kind of cool though.
I loved climbing on rocks when I was a kid. We used to go to Wyoming. My grandparents had a place out in the Wyoming desert, and they had all kinds of sandstone cliffs, and which they had like the little caves that were made by like erosion, where it's sort of the smooth like caves in the cliff. Those those were a lot of fun.
They look like waves almost, right? They like the sediment. You could see the sediment layers, and it's like wavy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And there would be layers. There'd be layers of metals where you could see like a layer of iron and all. It'd be like all red because of the rust and everything. Yeah.
Is that where? Is that the Tetons? Are you talking the Tetons?
So where we were, they weren't mountains. They were literally just like big like sandstone formations in the middle of the desert. So it'd be like just plains of sagebrush, and then just like a giant like it's almost like outcropping of sandstone. They live near Cheyenne.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
I've been through Cheyenne. I visited my sister in Aurora, and then on the way back home, we went up through Cheyenne to go home. I took me and 3 boys in a Prius with a roof rack. Have you ever been here? Is this a place you've been?
No.
It's a bad neighborhood, so it's really close to East St. Louis, but the actual complex itself is safe. So this big one is Monk's Mound. It is
that's a pyramid,
insane.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. And the base is bigger than the Egyptian pyramids. It was all done by hand. It's not as high.
That's a pickup truck at the base there. Wow.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But that's the biggest one, but let me go back. There's hundreds of these, man. Like, I have pictures on my Facebook. Let's see. I want to see the picture of it from the mound to the other, from the big one to the little ones. Or let's see.
Wow. So do they have any idea how old it is?
Oh yeah. It's in the 1300s was its like peak, but
wow.
there had been people in the area since the Ice Age. So, Monk's Mound view. Damn, why? There's also they call it Loghenge. So there's like a Stonehenge. There's Stonehenge types enclosures. They think it was for season. If they think it was seasonal, a seasonal indicator or calendar. Like, yeah, there's St. Louis from the top. So there's mounds in St. Louis too, and they just didn't care. They just like Lewis and Clark documented these. There's some more, yeah. So like, I mean, there's Monk's Mound. They're everywhere, dude. Like, it's crazy, and it's crazy to think how many of them eroded, or people were just like, let's cut down that hill right there. You know, like,
yeah,
it's a decent walk up too.
Like just disease that
I think disease, if I remember correctly, disease had something to do with it. Yeah. Let's see. Mississippian mounds. They're not just in Illinois though. They're let's do Mississippian Indian relics. I found beads before. I have some beads. I have an egg crate, a cup like from the 80s. And that's where I put everything. So I found beads in the yard and in my town. They have a thing called the Pie-Saw bird, which is carved into the side of the bluffs of the Mississippi. And like a lot of the arrowheads are very different. So I think it's different times and trading and interactions with different cultures. Mm-hmm. Where's the beads? Let's do beads. Where's the pretty ones? Those are the ugly ones. Those are shell beads. They actually yeah. Oh wait, oh, I saw it. Yeah. Some like these are pretty common to find. A lot of times you don't really realize what you've seen. Oh shit. That's an auction site. Fuck you.
Oh.
Mississippian Indian necklace. Oh, I fucking misspelled that. There we go. Yeah, you see these kind of all over. You know what I mean? It's like, it's so weird. These ones look like bone. Yeah, well, shit, it says bone necklace, but yeah.
Well, that was the thing, dude. I mean, like the Native Americans, they used to like weave the hair of their enemies into their clothing.
EMERAL, Emerald Mound, Lebanon, Illinois. Yeah, it's covered with trees now. Actually, one of my good Marine buddies, his daughters or his sons with these farmers. So, but yeah, I mean, but so like on the landscape when the trees aren't on it, and I remember in the 80s they had done an excavation so you could just see the mound. Like, it's obvious that was man-made. You know what I mean? Like even 1,000, 2,000 years ago, whatever. But yeah. I think they did that on purpose so that people wouldn't come and dig, because people do that. Like, everybody's got a fucking tractor. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Let's do our own excavation. But
yeah, I mean, it'd be interesting to find, like, see what you'd find. But I mean, dude, it's too bad we don't know more about those cultures. I mean, like, literally, like living where we are living now, you know, Like we really don't know anything about them.
Well, even Montana, dude. I'm fascinated with Montana. Like my sister she went to University of Montana. She married a Montanian. He's a great guy. His family's wonderful. His side, I guess, I think it's his mom's side. His grandpa is one of the tribal chiefs. But like when you think of a tribal chief, that's not what he looks like, right? Like he's like, I don't know how to describe it peacefully or nicely, but he looks like kind of like a normal guy, maybe a little bit more tan, just barely though, like more like your complexion than mine, right? Like, and it's fascinating. Like, and they have problems with mountain lions. Like they're way up there, Libby's way up there. So they go to the game wardens and they go to the tribe, like when they have to go take out an animal, because it's like they get blood hungry and they just kill shit, Yeah.
But, with livestock and stuff, it's a huge problem.
Oh, and also flooding, MJ. Yeah, I remember that. See, MJ's the town he's from. Like our whole area is. At least in grade school, we learned a lot about it. And then high school was just like, yeah, there's a place with some dirt down there in Yeah, you should see it sometime. It's like, I think it's like integrally important to like the American story. But
it's almost like we're too embarrassed to like go digging because we know if whatever we find is just gonna like incriminate us even more.
Yeah, probably. We're over 2 hours now. Do you want to cut it off now and we'll do this again sometime soon?
Yeah, we should. If you ever decide to have Mark on, then we should. After that, we should do like all three of us.
Let's do that. Let's. I'll talk to Mark about coming on next week, and then we'll do a. We should do you. Who else should we? We should do. Yeah, 3 is pretty good for the screen, I think. Yeah, you, me, and Mark. We'll just bullshit the whole time.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Pretty cool.
This has been great, though, man. This is This is cool.
The my co-founder of the Calvary, she's got live right now, so most people are over there. She gets thousands of views, thousands and thousands. We would have had more, but I'm not worried about views or anything. I like having chats with people. Like if it weren't for the internet, like the chances of you and I meeting at a conference even once would have been pretty much zero, like, I mean, it's cool the way these things evolve over the years. Like I've always like you guys, and there's probably 8 people in like the cyber and hacker and researcher community that like I've didn't work with, who I was like, I need to get to know this guy better. You know what I mean? And there's a lot of people I like. There's hundreds that I like a lot, It's like you guys are just different. Like it's just that we get along so good. We just have these coolest conversations that it ends up being so mundane. You had talk about finances, you talk about contracts, you talk about work, and you talk about stuff.
Yeah.
Like there's just so much more to talk about, and I've always enjoyed doing that with you. So
yeah, same, Wally. Yeah, it's always a fun time.
Yeah, dude. I don't think we've had a bad time. I mean,
never. Even when we were sober, we were having a good time.
Right. I know. Which is funny. So a bunch of the guys who've known me for 20 plus years, they're like, dude, you're funner sober than you are drunk. Drunk, you become a pain in the ass pretty quick. And I'm like, yeah, that's true. I know that about me, but yeah, it's cool. It's cool that you can have a good time. Like for a while, I didn't think I could, but I can definitely have just as good of a time and actually remember it. So that's pretty fucking cool too.
Hey,
Yeah,
there you go, man.
Like, yeah, then, we talked about so much stuff last time I saw you. It's like, it's like 6 hours to unpack. We covered 10%,
Yeah. I mean, we didn't even talk about aliens.
Yeah, we didn't even, fuck, man.
next time.
Yeah, because there's been some, okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make a note real quick. Obviously, aliens, right? Because in the Jersey drones, so the new news, which I thought was interesting, which I didn't expect it to get details the way I did. they were the flight paths that they know of.
Details?
Well, they were FFA approved. So he said, and then the statements, they're not the enemy. And I'm like, okay. So aliens.
That is such a tease. That's such a tease.
I know. NJ drones, FFA, or FAA. What else do we forget?
Let's see. Göbekli Tepe.
Yep.
You know, all that. Yeah. Quantum physics, dark matter.
Okay. All right. We'll do it again. I did have Göbekli Tepe stuff pulled up. Just didn't get to it. It's it's super.
Time flies. Time flies. Well, thanks for having me on, Wally. This has been awesome.
Yep, dude. I will talk to you soon. We'll talk later in the week, bud.
All right. See you later.
So I'll kick you off, and then I'm gonna do my outro or whatever. So
all right.
Bye. Peace. All right, everybody. Thanks. More to follow. Just getting back in the swing of things, so bear with me. But all of you, please have a good night. I posted on the community thing with the email for the channel. If you want to talk about something or you want to come on, shoot me an email or a text if you know it. So, and good night.